Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha and today I'm going to create 3 looks using this mini palette by Viseart, and this is their Petit Pro 2 palette. So I'm going to show you how to create 3 different looks using this mini palette, and one of them I'm wearing right now. And at the end of those looks I'm going to share my final thoughts about this palette. So let's get started. So look number 1 is a brown smoky eye that you can create with this palette. So I'm first using the 2 lightest matte eyeshadows, so this beigey and this peachy tone, the shades Petal and Nectar. And I'm going to use this in the transition area of my eye. So going all the way from my crease, going towards the brow bone area. Then to deepen up my crease, I'm mixing the peach and the brown, so Nectar and Honeysuckle. I'm going to add it to the depth of my crease. And then to deepen up my eyelid, I'm going to first use a black pencil. This is by NYX and it's the Jumbo Eye Pencil in Black Bean. But you can use any black eye kohl for this step. Just make sure to blend it, but take it only till the crease, don't go above the crease. Try and keep most of the intensity close to the lash line. I'm also taking this black pencil on my lower lash line, taking it 3/4 of the way in. And with that same brush, I'm going to pack on that brown eyeshadow Honeysuckle right on top of the black pencil, and also taking slightly into the crease. And then for my lower lash line, I went back in with that Nectar shade, the peachy shade, just to blend out the edges of this brown. And then again going back in with that first blending brush we used, just to blend out the edges on the top and the bottom eyelid. And then since here I felt like I'd lost some of the brown in the crease, I just picked up some more brown with that blending brush and applied it straight to my crease. Then I'm just using a black pencil. This is by Charlotte Tilbury, and I'm going to run it on my top and bottom waterline. And then just adding some mascara to my eyelashes. For the lips, I did a mixture of lipsticks from the Anastasia Beverly Hills lip palette. So I mixed in the shades 4 and 7 from this palette to create this peachy tone, and that's look number 1. For the second look, I wanted to test some of the cooler shades in this palette. So I'm going to mostly use this matte purple called Foxglove. I'm really going to pack it into my crease. And then once most of the color is deposited in the crease, I'm just using the same brush to diffuse out the edges of this purple eyeshadows to create like a lavender blended out look in the transition or crease area. And then just to add a hint of warmth, I'm just dipping once into that peach shade and running it right above the intense purple shade that we have in the crease. So almost like a transition area where we have the blended out purple eyeshadow. Then I'm taking a pencil brush and also focusing the purple shade on the outer V of the eye and also taking it on my lower lash line to create this extended cat eye kind of a shade. And then just to intensify the purple in the crease as well, I'm taking the same eyeshadow there. And then going back in with that blending brush we used first to diffuse out any harsh edges. Then because we're going to do kind of a cut crease, I do want some additional depth in the crease. So I'm going in with the brown from this palette called Honeysuckle. I'm going to pack it in the socket of the eye. Then I'm going to use this flat brush by Morphe. It's the M421, one of my favorite flat brushes. I'm going to use the NYX HD Concealer to kind of carve out 3/4 of my eye. I'm just going to apply that, and it's in the shade number 6. Because I have hooded eyes, I do have to stretch it out a bit with my finger to get a clean line. We're going in with a flat brush and I'm using the shade Aster, which is that light purpley lavender pink shade. Just going to pack it on top of the area where we have the concealer. And then because I have hooded eyes, I do not want the shimmery eyeshadow to transfer to the crease area. I'm going to apply a thin layer of the MAC mixing medium. And once that's dried, the eyeshadow is not going to transfer onto the crease. So that's a good tip in case you have hooded eyes like mine. Then I'm also running the light shade, the shimmery shade in the inner tear duct area. And just running my blending brush through the edges of that shimmery eyeshadow in case there's some loose eyeshadow right there. Then to clean up the edges of the eyeshadow, I'm just using the translucent powder I'd used on my face. And again with that same blending brush that we used earlier, just applying it to the edges to kind of soften up the purple. And then for my waterline, I'm using my Sephora waterproof eye pencil in the shade Purple Stilettos. It's a beautiful lavender color. And then for my top waterline, I'm using the black pencil by Charlotte Tilbury. And then just curling my lashes and applying some mascara. And for this, I paired it up with the Stila lipstick in the shade Paradiso. And I applied a very thin layer across my lips, and that's look number 2 complete. For my third look, I'm playing with the warm tones in this palette. So I'm first starting with mixing these 2 lighter mattes to the shades Petal and Nectar. I'm going to apply it to my crease and transition area, but not taking these eyeshadows too high towards the brow bone, just keeping it focused into the crease. Then I'm taking the shade Petal, the lightest shade, and going to apply that on the edges of the peach shade, just to lighten it up a bit. I'm first starting with the light pink shimmery eyeshadow. I'm going to focus this on the inner 1/3 of the eye. So imagine the eye being divided into 1/3 portions. So the first 1/3, I'm going to apply the shade both on the top eyelid and the bottom, so the inner tear duct as well. So this eyeshadow I did have to layer up a bit for it to show up. It's not as pigmented just because it's kind of powdery, but you can also apply this eyeshadow wet. I didn't apply it for this look. Then I'm moving on to the shade next to it, which is Clove, and applying it to the middle of the eye, so the middle 1/3, right above my pupil. And this is one of my favorite shades from this palette. It's absolutely stunning, and it looks more intense on the eyes than it does in the pan. It's like a good mix of a deep rose color with a hint of copper tones also to it. I don't know, it's just beautiful on tan skin tones, I feel. So I'm just applying that on the middle of the eye and also on my bottom eyelid as well. And then moving on to the shade over, which is Cosmos, which is slightly more cool toned. And with that same brush, I'm just going to apply it on the outer 1/3 now, connecting the eyeshadows at the outer corner, and also slightly taking it into the crease just on the outer edge. And then again, just using that blending brush we used for the crease and diffusing all the harsh edges. You should know by now that I'm all about blending and blending and blending some more. So once we have that, moving on to eyeliner, I'm first using this warm chocolate brown color eye pencil. This is by MAC and it's in the shade Costa Riche. So I'm going to apply this just to my top waterline. You could apply it to your bottom waterline as well if you want to make this look slightly more wearable. But I really wanted to use this Marc Jacobs eyeliner. It's the Highliner eye pencil in the shade Fine Wine. It's a stunning red burgundy kind of a shade. So I'm just going to apply that on my bottom waterline. And because I felt it was a little too red for this look, I went over it with that brown eye pencil as well, just a hint to kind of tone it down a bit. And then just curling my lashes and applying some mascara. And that completes look number 3. Now moving on to the review of the palette. Now this palette retails in the UK for £24 and is currently available also at Sephora, I believe, for $30 US. So if you'd like to purchase this, I'm going to link it in the description box below. But you get 8 eyeshadows and it comes in the same packaging as the Petit Pro one. So you get a small mirror and then it closes like this. The top one is volume 1, and the bottom one is volume 2. And as you can see, the first volume was more neutral toned. Most of the shades were quite neutral except for the middle two, which have that gold and kind of a coppery shade, while the second palette is definitely more warm, I would say, and very spring appropriate. So as you can see, the palette contains 4 matte eyeshadows on the top and 4 shimmery shades at the bottom. Now with the second palette, they do have shade names, so right on the outer packaging, but I feel that's kind of a con. I would have rather had it on the back of this palette, so instead of the sticker here, I would have preferred it also including the shade names, but that's just me. And as with the Petit Pro one, all of these little pans are removable, so they're magnetized, and you can pop it into any of your other palettes that you may be traveling with. Be careful because the magnet is quite strong and you may dig in your nail into these eyeshadows. I've done that before. So they come out like this, and you can pop them back in. So just put them in and they slide right in. If you want to see better swatches, you can head over to my Instagram page, because I know a lot of people don't have Instagram, they don't follow me there, so I'm going to do some quick swatches with these. So these are what the swatches look like. Now starting with the matte eyeshadows, lightest to darkest. So the first one is called Petal, which is like a light peach eyeshadow, at least on my skin tone. The next one is one of my favorites from this palette, which is called Nectar, just a stunning peach eyeshadow, leaning towards orange. The third is this lovely brown shade called Honeysuckle. And the fourth matte is a purple called Foxglove. That's the matte eyeshadow that's not too pigmented when it comes to swatches, but as you've seen in the demo, it applies fine. So don't go by swatches. Moving on to the bottom row, the metallics. The first one, which is this pink shade, is called Primrose, which I would describe like a pinky peach, leaning more towards pink, I would say. It does have a more powdery texture compared to the other metallics. The second shade is called Clove or Clove, which is this stunning rosy pink with some copper tones, I would say, which is my favorite shimmer of the lot. The next shade up is called Cosmos, which is this guy, just like a deeper plummy burgundy kind of a shade. I'm horrible at describing, but you can see what the shade looks like. And then the last shade is called Aster, which is this light lavender purpley pink shade. So those are what the swatches look like. So if you want to use this palette as a standalone palette, I think the lighter spectrum of skin tones are going to find it challenging because there's no shade that's close to their skin tone, I would say. But if you are tan to deeper skin tones, you're going to love this. You're going to get a ton of use from this palette. This is the shade that I've used in almost all my looks as a transition or, a cleaning up shade around the edges of eyeshadows. So that totally works for me. But if you have lighter skin tone, that may not be possible with that shade. And then, as I said, the purple doesn't swatch well, the matte purple, but it applies fine on the eyes. And then the only shimmer that's kind of a different texture is the first one, which is Primrose. And that does have a tendency to be slightly more powdery and dry, I guess. But you can also apply it on the eyes wet for more intensity. Overall, I think this is a great palette and a great addition to the Petit Pro Volume 1. So I actually prefer the Volume 2 compared to the Volume 1 just because of the warmth in these eyeshadows. That's what I think personally suits my warm skin tone more than these neutral eyeshadows. But I do love the gold and the shimmery shades, the bottom 3 here. So although the matte brown looks similar in this palette and also the shimmery purple, that looks similar, the third one right here, you can see in the swatches, if you head over to my Instagram, that they are not exactly the same. They do differ quite a bit. When I look at this palette, it just totally reminds me of spring. Something about the left quadrant of this palette is so warm and just beautiful and spring appropriate, I feel. Especially the tones that I have on my eyes today, you can see it's really nice. So if you don't have similar tones, I would highly recommend grabbing this palette. It is beautiful, it applies really nicely, and as with other Viseart eyeshadows, these do not disappoint either. So So highly recommend this little one. And yeah, I did get to know that they are coming out with the Petit Pro 3 in a month or so. So be on the lookout for that. I have no idea what kind of colors or tones are going to be in that. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to hit that like button and also consider subscribing to my channel for more videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me.